This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 394 for Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me this week is Ryan Murphy. You can find him at Zombies Ate My Podcast, Dungeons and Diapers, and The Gamers Inn, as well as R. Murphy on Twitter and /Ryan Murphy CA on Twitch. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Hello. It's interesting. I thought, how am I going to do this small talk intro banter? And I thought to myself, well, we're not allowed to talk about weather. And then I remembered we should add another rule to the TCC, which is Ryan's not going to talk about when was the last time I'm on. And then like while you're talking, Googling it, figuring it out, and then interrupting you and saying, oh, I haven't been on in X amount of time. Now, mind you, I did not look it up pre-show, so I don't actually know it. But that would be breaking the second rule of intro talks, so I'm not going to do it. But it's probably been since Christmas, I would guess.
Inside joke, it was Christmas. Yeah.
Dang, I already screwed up. All right, next time.
Yeah, it's only been 6 weeks into the new year, so like I haven't recorded very many new episodes. So I've gone through the roster of the regular co-hosts at least once.
That's good.
And it's been great because like I for those of you that are maybe new to the podcast this week, if you don't know, we now have a regular co-host on the first week of the month. So Steven ESC is on the show now monthly, which is fantastic. And speaking of regular co-hosts, Ryan is filling in for Brockett, who is on daddy duty. Brockett and his wife Laura welcomed their daughter Ainsley earlier this month, and so Brockett's gonna be busy helping out with the new baby the next couple of weeks. So congrats to Brockett and Laura. Everybody seems to be doing healthy and happy and cute. Wow, they're cute. Because they have an older daughter that's 2. And everybody looks like mom. I'm sure they probably get this a lot, but all of them look like Laura. So, but they're a pretty cute little family. So big congrats to Brockett and Laura. And Brockett will be back on the show maybe in, I think he said April, maybe May, just to have a couple months to kind of focus on what's happening with the fam.
Yeah. Oh, I feel you on that. Having 3 kids now, when you welcome a newborn, when you already have kids, it's a whole new ball game. Hopefully the oldest is still napping, because I found like that was the easiest way to ease into multiple kids, as long as one of them is still napping. Because once they stop napping, it's you're on duty all day long. So,
well, you can tell that I don't have any kids because I don't know when the napping stops. But Emerson's like 2.5 ish, okay. Something like that.
It depends on the kid. I found my oldest would nap. He napped I feel like he napped until he was 3. But then middle child, Abigail, she stopped napping early. And I think she stopped napping the same time Caden did. So she was like in tandem with her older brother. And now it's like, okay, we got to keep you two quiet while the little baby's sleeping. And it's just this whole game of shh, but not saying shh so loud that you wake up the baby, which is tough.
God.
It's a balance.
I can only imagine. Well, speaking of new stuff, I want to give another shout out to a friend of the show, Alistair McFly, and his co-host Trevor Whale, who've launched their new podcast, Long Range Sensors, this past week. You can get that at longrangesensors.com. If you haven't figured it out, it's about Star Trek, because that's usually why I have Alistair on the show when we want to talk about that, or like cool retro arcade tabletop stuff. But Star Trek is his true passion, and they've got the new podcast out there. So you can find that at longrangesensors.com. Give it a listen. There's one episode out there now. By the time you listen to this podcast, there might be a second. They're recording another one this week. So check that out. And I'll say to everyone the same thing that I said to Alistair. I can't believe that website was available.
Yeah.
Holy
Actually,
crap.
Now that you mentioned that, that's crazy.
Easy to remember. longrangesensors.com. Check it out. And this is where we could go into like what have we been up to, what are we doing? But you know what? I've just been playing a lot of Xbox games. That's it. That's my non-work life. Is basically taking advantage of the new system, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show this week. Is because now that I've had the Xbox for almost a month, I guess I don't remember when I got it. Isn't that sad? Can't be.
Yeah, well,
It
I
can't be
mean,
a
the
month.
last 6 weeks have been a bit of a pandemic blur. So
Yeah, it was the very tail end of January, so I guess I've only really had it 2 weeks. So it just feels because of the amount of time I've spent with it, I guess, and coming off of not having a very nice TV, not being interested in a lot of new stuff that's been coming out for films and whatnot. I just wasn't spending a lot of time in front of the television. Like I'd be more apt to watch YouTube on my iPad, kicking back on the couch doing that, than I would be to watch something on Netflix on the TV, just because unless there was something I was dying to see, but like there really wasn't very much. And so the combination of having a nice new television and having the Xbox Series X now, um, rather than kicking up and watching Netflix, like I'm doing interactive stuff, which is way more engaging for me, I find, at night. And so I thought we can maybe dive into that experience, and because it's been a little while of like messing around with the settings and trying some new games, and actually you and I did a co-op multiplayer thing on Destiny 2 Beyond Light there on Monday night, which was really, really fun, except for the last part, and we'll get into this now, but except for the last part where you took us on was it a strike playlist?
oh yeah,
or
we did the
something?
strike playlist, and I forgot that. Oh, this is all the content that we probably haven't experienced yet, and I
Lost.
used to be good at destinying, but now I'm all new again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't remember dying a lot, but I certainly got my butt handed to me a number of times by some of the fights that were happening on like floating asteroids, and like I've never been here. There were bad
Yeah.
guys that I had never seen. It's like, why are they black and glowing? I don't know what's going on. And so it was a little bit over my head. But the first couple things, and then we switched gears and we started doing missions for you, because I mentioned this last week on the show. With Destiny 2 Beyond Light, they've revamped the onboarding missions of like, so you're new, like Joel. Uh, Welcome to Destiny. This is the rules and this is how it works and blah, blah, blah. And so you do those missions and then you move on to the Beyond Light missions. They've removed the other missions from the game. The old stuff, like if you're a 100%er like me and you go like, hey, I'm new to Destiny. What's the order I should play the missions in so I can get the story? You can't, because the first 3 campaigns are just not there. And the 2 latest expansions before Beyond Light are there, but all the content gives you rewards that are underpowered. So you're better off to basically do the intro missions and then start the Beyond Light content, the new stuff. So that's what I've been doing. And then on Monday night, you and I switched over and we started helping you through the tail end of the onboarding missions. So as someone coming into Destiny that's played it before, like how did you find the intro back into it?
Yeah, it's an interesting experience jumping back into what is essentially an MMO style game after years of being away. And I played Destiny 1, at launch, played all the expansions as they came out, played Destiny 2 at launch on PC, played the first expansion that came out, and enjoyed it. I did some raiding as well and kind of kept up with it. And then I kind of fell off of it. And with this new expansion, Beyond Light, they announced, hey, in order to provide a better experience, we're going to start sunsetting content and bringing it back in sort of waves after we've, brought it, we Disney vault it and then we touch it up and then we bring it back in a new light. So my experience coming back is kind of like, I know the start of the story of Destiny 2. Then there's like this gap that Bungie has essentially said like, it existed, it happened, and you can go back and play it. But as you said, Beyond Light is our current serving that we're pushing forward. And I mean, it's really unfortunate. I mean, the Destiny 2 story, the Destiny story in general, has always been this weird sort of side project, gameplay first, story second, as opposed to kind of the Halo games that were made by the same company, was sort of a balance between gameplay and story, which I really liked. So with Destiny, it's like when you've got this story that is just kind of there to prop up the gameplay, because the gameplay is first and foremost. And again, if you want to get into Destiny and you're right in there and you love the story, that is certainly, I'm not saying it's not possible to do that, but for me coming in and I feel like I've skipped to the ending of the book, or I've skipped to the third chapter in the new book. It's like, well, I don't know what's going on with all this other stuff, and does it feed into Beyond Light, or is Beyond Light a whole new experience? But then I think, as you said last week on the cafe, it was like, you just kind of have to push through that and ignore it, and maybe go back to it or read a Wikipedia article or something. But yeah, the story is like, they kind of wiped it away in it literally, because I think you get the Beyond Light, cinematic, which came up for me with, uninitiated, just kind of like, here it is, 3 planets disappeared, and I'm like, oh, okay, so that's how they get away with sending you to the new content, because they literally disappeared. Like, yeah. It's weird. I thought they would just say like, hey, this content's no longer accessible and it'll come back later. It's like, nah, there's a canon reason. It's not even a canon reason. There's a canon explanation. It's just gone. I think the darkness kind of came in and muddied the waters a little bit.
Yeah, that's the impression that I got. I don't remember exactly how. There are some hints in the dialogue that, congratulations, you've kind of finished your, earlier missions. Now that you're an accomplished guardian, I need your help with something. Slash, Mercury, Venus, and I don't remember the other planet, Mars, I think.
Yeah, it was like Io. There's a couple moons.
Yeah, so Io, Mercury, and Mars, I think. I can't remember how it goes. But
yeah, Titan, I think Titan might have been one.
They've all disappeared, and the dialogue is basically like, you can imagine sort of like a Ryan Reynolds movie moment where it's, you're in this group of people that are all getting the same speech, and then you just kind of lean in and go like, that sounds bad. Is that bad? And someone goes, yeah, it's like real bad. And that's all you need to know is basically, so we're sending you to Europa, to fight this I can't remember her name, this general that's causing all this problems. Aramis, I think, is the main baddie. And she apparently is from the story, because like when you get introduced to Aramis, like your little ghost robot, who I like, and provides you with a little bit of, doesn't provide you with backstory, but he provides you with back emotion, right? So when someone says like, you need to go find it, looks like Aramis is wielding this thing and being bad and doing things, and you can tell how close attention I paid. And the ghost is just kind of like, Aramis, wow, that's really serious. And you're just like, oh, okay, well, she's obviously important, so you get that information. And in a way, I'm glad that it's not like a giant monologue where they beat you over the head with the last 3 years of Destiny in a paragraph, They
could, right?
They could. They let you figure it out along the way. And I like that. There's also someone that helps. I don't want to spoil it for you because you're really close to it. But there's also another character that I think you used to fight that you then have to like get information from. And so the idea is that you're this liaison between Trader Joe, and what's happening on Europa and what your next missions are. And so there's a lot of really cool back and forth there. I don't have a history with the character, but I've been given enough information that you kind of go, okay, so I'm guessing that other Guardians that have been around longer than I have probably have a beef with this guy. I don't, but it doesn't matter. You just kind of like, you kind of side eye the guy like, okay, friends have told me that you're not trustworthy, so we'll go on this way. And it's not like you have any choice, because there's only the missions they give you. They're only coming from him. So like, if you want to progress, you have to do it. So it's not like it's a MMO in the sense that you have a choice,
Well, it's interesting, I think, when you think a little more about it and how they've set up Beyond Light with the new onboarding missions. The new onboarding missions are essentially, it was really weird for me because I'm playing through those early missions and I'm like, this feels super familiar. and I couldn't quite place it. And it's literally they've rebooted Destiny 1's first mission zone, which was the EDZ zone, or the EDZ.
Cosmodrome.
Yeah, well, the Cosmodrome was in Destiny 2, and it was always there. But the EDZ, which is the Europe Dead Zone, or
Yeah,
Europa
European Dead Zone. Yeah.
European Dead Zone. Thank you. Real continent. I know that. But no, the European Dead Zone, and that was Destiny 1's intro missions, and they kind of brought that back. So they literally, what they've done is they've taken the start of the Guardian and brought it up to Beyond Light. So it's kind of like, instead of all new characters in canon starting in Destiny 1, they've now have all new characters starting in canon at Beyond Light. And you kind of catch up, and they move you through some early content of Destiny 2 to get you to Beyond Light. And then the other stuff that is the interstitial stuff actually happened to these characters. It's just, it didn't happen to your character. You're coming in year 5 because, but there's been a whole, half a decade of class before that. You weren't going to that school. I switched analogies like three different ways from Sunday there, but you kind of, I think my brain understands where I'm going with this, and hopefully the listeners do too. And it's funny. I know there are probably like, oh, catch up on Destiny story in 5 minutes YouTube videos, and I'm sure they're very good at sort of breaking it down for you, because again, the story isn't complex, and I think that when it's, light versus dark, you literally got the light and you've got the darkness, and they've been fighting for eons. And the character you mentioned, I saw that cutscene and I didn't know who she was, but they did mention the Cabal. The Cabal invade, I think, in one of the expansions, and it might have been the Taken King, and there's which was in Destiny 1, and it's kind of interesting for them to do all those callbacks to a game that came out, 6 years ago, content that came out 6 years ago, not even part of this specific game. And there was hints in that content of oh, the Cabal homeworld, there's this distress signal. And what they're explaining in this Beyond Light is our planet was taken over by the darkness. We've ran and now we're trying to fight it here. And it's kind of an interesting, setup that they are with Beyond Light. They really are addressing some early threads that were kind of left dangling for those folks that have been around since the beginning. But it's also really engaging for new players as well, because it's you are now being able to skip to the end of the Star Wars trilogy, where it's the Return of the Jedi fight at the end, right? You get to miss all that stuff, but you get the cool ending fight between the light and the darkness, right? So it's kind of interesting, and they've mapped out the next 3 expansions too. So they've really spelled out where Destiny 2 is going. And it's kind of a really good time to jump in, I think. It's still confusing.
Yeah, it's still really confusing. I mean, the unfortunate thing, and sometimes video games are just, like you said, gameplay first, story second. The problem, I think, when dropping somebody into Destiny 2 Beyond Light is the systems that are in place. You get one mission and a very brief overview of how to do weapons and inventory and what it means to dismantle something and stuff like that. And there's unfortunately a mix of instruction. There's instruction that pops up on screen that you have to read and then dismiss with a button. And then there's other instruction that comes up on screen and vanishes before you're done reading if you're not fast enough. And that I find really frustrating, because it's just oh, you just picked up with this kind of thing. You can do 3 things, this, and then it disappears. And you're like, sure, what's the third thing? Because I'm probably going to need to know that later. And so my biggest hang up so far has been the inventory and what to dismantle. Should you dismantle you do have that kind of experience. If you've done any MMOs before, we'll use World of Warcraft as an example, because I know we're both really familiar. I do remember the struggle of leveling up through certain areas of World of Warcraft and looking like a hobo, because I had green pants and a blue shirt and a purple cape and gauntlets and shoulders that were wood, and a shield that was metal. It was just all kinds of nonsense. Eventually, they added things in transmog, and so if you find a piece of gear that you really like and goes well with what you're doing, you can continue to make everything look like that and just keep the stats of the new gear. And I think that Destiny suffers from that, because people that are into these kind of games and want to have that kind of experience, I don't necessarily see myself very much in the game, but other people do. And it would be cool if I didn't look like I was a rainbow unicorn with a weapon. And so I've picked up a couple of shaders. They don't necessarily work the way that I want them to. Plus, they're just like they're not necessarily renewable unless they're legendary. So it's just like, well, I don't want to be a purple character. I am right now because that's the shader pack that I happen to have that's legendary that doesn't disappear. So like stuff like that is a little bit, frustrating trying to figure out how it all works. But you can find out, and it's in the same way that a game that I spend a lot of time playing in Minecraft. You have to eventually go to the wiki. Like depending on how deep you go into the game, there's only so much that the game can tell you because there's just so much going on. And eventually you're going to have to watch a YouTube tutorial, a Let's Play, or just talk to friends about it. And I feel like that Destiny is, unfortunately, maybe relying a little too heavily on the community and the information that's out there. Like, why do we have to do an in-depth tutorial? There's lots of in-depth tutorials on YouTube. It's like, well, yes, but I don't want my, 90 minutes that I have to play at the end of an evening. I don't want half of that spent trying to Google how the hell to do something, because I've done that, and that's been frustrating. But once you're in there and you can kind of learn those ropes and kind of like decide that nothing is precious, and that once you realize that you just get so much stuff, it's not really worth keeping anything around longer than you have to, then you can kind of roll forward with it. I've been wishing for like a firing range. Do you ever have that need?
Yeah, I can sort of see that where you want to just test out, because all the guns that you get access to, especially early on, you're constantly switching, and you're getting different types of scout rifles, different types of assault rifles, fusion rifles, all that fun stuff. So I can see a need to go in like, okay, these all have like a very similar feel and power level. Let's go in and test them out. I don't know if there is like a firing range, because again, like when you're in the world is fairly populated, and when you're in a quiet zone, like you're not able to shoot your gun. You're in I wonder if there is a firing sort of section.
Not that I've been able to find. There's a couple of things that are new. It's called the Hive or something, but I don't know where it is, because the instructions to find it on this place were one of those things that came up and then disappeared before I could acknowledge, okay, fine, that's where that is. So I don't know where that is yet. There's also another planet that I haven't explored because it's part of the new season content, and I wanted to get through the Beyond Light story first. And I've got like one more boss battle. Well, I'm assuming one more boss battle. I don't know. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's a hard, it's fun. It's a hard sell, because you're just talking about it. But where Destiny excels is the gameplay is very good. Like, it's easy to pick up. I wasn't sure I was going to like a shooter with powers. Like I wasn't sure I wanted to have a shooter that I had to do melee stuff, and I had to do like not spell casting, but like, the different things that you can do with your abilities and tech trees and all that kind of stuff. And I do really enjoy it. I really like playing the game. And I can see where people that like it this much or more will forgive the shortcomings, right? Because you just kind of beat your head against a wall until you get it, because you do enjoy the process of shooting bad guys in the head, like it's such a simple mechanic. But I think too that the weapons are a big deal too. Like just the fact that at first you get like a rifle, and it's a rifle, it's a standard thing. But then once you get your first energy weapon, then you're like, okay, now I see the appeal. Like with something in your hand, like hums and shoots like blue lightning engulfed bullets. I'm just like, I'm on board. This feels really good. Combined with, HDR, decent, sound and vibrating controller. Like, all that kind of immersion stuff starts to happen. And there's definitely moments where I will get a new auto rifle or something like that and fire it in a firefight for the first time, and maybe not giggle out loud, but I'm definitely grinning, going like, I like this. This is in rotation now, because I like the way that it feels. A lot of time for me, it's like, I don't need the most powerful gun. I'm more about the accurate gun, because I'm not the best first person shooter with a Xbox controller. So I need something that's not going to have a lot of like recoil and kickback, because otherwise I just don't hit anything. in terms of machine guns. I'm more of a sniper scout rifle guy. Where do you land with your weapons most of the time?
I like the scout rifle. I like to be able to have that 2x zoom, look down the barrel, but not have to worry about being super accurate. And then I'm not a big sniper rifle fan because I'm just not, like I said, not accurate. But the fusion rifle is nice because you can kind of like charge it up. But I've always been partial to a good shotgun. So like a scout rifle for far back, shotgun for up close. I can sometimes mix in the pistol sometimes with a if there's no scout rifle available. But in terms of the heavy weapon, I like the idea of the sword, but I always die whenever I get too inundated with enemies. But the rocket launcher is also nice, but also you can easily kill yourself. So
Yes.
I don't know. I guess I like to live on the edge.
I like the heavy weapons. I thought the power weapons, I think that's what they're called, power weapons. They do a good job of like they're way larger than the other two weapons that you use. So when you equip it, it feels like, oh, something's going down. And I definitely just use them on like bosses or mini bosses. And it's just really satisfying for something to come out. And I just look at it like, I don't have the time to needle down this 2,000 hit point, guy that's just going to drive me nuts for the next 5 minutes. And so I wait for an opening and then I hit them with something like a rocket launcher or grenade launcher, something like that, and take them down by half and just speed up the process. I find that very, very satisfying. I do like the sniper rifles from time to time. It depends on my mood. I do think that, like what you said, the scout rifle is a nice balance. Like I want that one shot, one trigger, just kind of like thing. Not pulse rifles. Is it pulse rifles? Yeah, pulse rifles. They're the ones that shoot like a 5 or 6 round burst with a trigger press, and they're okay. I find they can be a little bit inaccurate sometimes depending on which one you have. But I really enjoyed like the auto rifle. I've got not an elite. What's the yellow? There's
Exotic.
So I've got the first exotic from the mission that they send you on, and that's really satisfying because one of its powers is that when you get shot with a certain amount of damage, certain kind of shock damage, it then overloads and sends that damage back in like a chain lightning sort of thing. Think like Thor's attack sort of idea to the bad guys, which means you don't have to be that accurate. You just have to maybe hit one of them and you're going to hit all three of them. And so that has been very satisfying after not dying a lot, but I've certainly been in situations where it's been really hairy and, like you feel like you're being overwhelmed. And that gun now is my like close quarters combat. Like if I'm feeling overwhelmed, like where you would use a sword or a shotgun, I'm using the exotic because it's just like a spray and pray, but it hits everything. And I'm okay with that. Like I said, I also like I don't necessarily like jumping puzzles, but I do like the double jump jetpack thing that I'm rocking. That's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Once you get a good feel for the controls and the customization of the different jump options and your powers and stuff, I think you get into a good feel for your character. And that's the thing with any MMO. Anybody who's played Destiny 2 long enough knows exactly how they want to play their character and has a specific idea of what fun is in the game. And it can be very different player to player. So I think early on, it can be easy to get kind of lost and kind of be stumbling across these discoveries. But the more you play, the more you experience of the game, you'll find like, oh, okay, there's a lot here, and I've kind of soaked it all in, and I know now what I wish I knew starting out. And that's the beauty of this game is like I think a lot of the people who play it are super approachable, and folks who are. I'm sure there are probably people listening to this podcast who are, diehard Destiny fans, and they're not cursing at their podcast player because they're all nice. And now they have to be nice because I said they're nice. But my experience with Destiny 2 players is that they're all very friendly and they're all willing to help new players and guide them. And I mean, we did a couple strikes, and we all obviously had like a third player jump in, and the rudest thing people will do in that game is kind of just run ahead. But really, I don't blame them. They've done the content a bunch of times. They're just trying to get through it. But, I mean, that's nice when you're playing an online game. And that's the only thing you can kind of complain about. Because we did fine once we got to the encounters. And when someone did leave, someone else popped in really quickly, and we were able to finish it all. There's nothing more dissatisfying about an online game when someone leaves and it's like, well, we're doomed now, right? So it's I find it to be a very positive in-game experience, and I think it is because they kind of limit the social interactions. Like there's no like voice chat. It's not enabled by default. You can kind of change all that, and it's just, maybe I haven't played enough to experience the bad side of it, but I think it's been my experience with it has been pretty positive.
Yeah, well, that mission that we did together there Monday night, that boss fight, I did that on my own with 2 other strangers, just because it was the time of night that I was playing, and that was the next mission, and I didn't even realize, I don't think at the time, that it was a multiplayer or a 3-person strike until I actually loaded it up. I was like, oh crap, okay, well, guess I'm playing with other people, and my thought was like, hope they don't mind that I'm new. I mean, I'm not new to video games, so it's not like I'm completely useless, but I certainly, pardon me, at the time I was running a Titan striker, and it was fine, but I am much more in tune with the game and my weapons and like what I need to do and how to use the powers to my advantage, and better at keeping an eye on the cooldowns and like all that kind of stuff. I've also switched just for fun because I did end up in the onboarding missions unlocking the other subclasses, and I'm currently really enjoying Sunbreaker. I haven't tried the Sentinel because most of the time I found that I wanted more offense, so I'm using the Sunbreaker. You rolled a Warlock to play Beyond Light on Xbox, I think. How's that going?
Yeah, first time playing a Warlock. I kind of stayed Hunter throughout my entire Destiny playing, with all the way back to the first one on PS4. And being a Warlock is interesting. It's certainly a different feel. It's more, as you would expect, more magic focused. And it's been really nice. It's been a good experience. I really do wish I eventually will get around to trying like a Titan. It's kind of been interesting to find that they've really had these 3 class archetypes since the very beginning. They've added like subclasses, and I think they've added 1 subclass for each of them since the launch of Destiny 2, and there really hasn't been a lot of changes there. And I think they've just been more focused on sort of the gameplay that you can run your characters through. But yeah, the Warlock's interesting. I'm still kind of getting used to it, but the Warlock has this supportive feel to it, in that you do have these healing circles you can put down, but you can also switch that up and put an empowering circle down to increase damage, which my experience with raiding and group content in Destiny is that there's this very specific role that you play, whereas we gotta get the damage done, lay down an empowering circle so that we can all do as much damage as possible during this phase so that we don't fail out. And it's really interesting. I've experienced that from afar, but now doing it in game now, it's been really cool to experience a different class, because I've just played Hunter for so long, which is the DPS class.
Yeah.
It is the easier class where, I mean, in terms of roles for MMOs, like I've always done DPS because it's not that it's easier, it's less pressure. The tank has to hold aggro, the healer has to heal and buff and stuff, and like that, there's this pressure there. Even when you're playing with the nicest people, if you screw up, it's it sucks. But the DPS is like, oh well, just do as much damage as possible, and they'll do the rest, right? So yeah. I've always enjoyed that pressure-free role, and I might be simplifying it, but I know the healers out there know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of pressure being a healer.
I tanked in World of Warcraft. Now, I didn't do anything really hard, so I'm not saying that I was a good tank, because it was just 5-man dungeons where it was, pretty easy concept stuff. But I did enjoy the odd time when we had a better tank with, and I would switch over to like a Retribution Paladin and just kind of do DPS or AoE or whatever. Not the most efficient at it, obviously, because it's not meant to be a DPS character, but Johnny, my co-host on the Spawn Chunks, called it. He said, like, don't tell me, I'm going to guess. You're a Titan And I was like, yeah, how'd you know? He goes like, I just, from what you've talked about, the way that you talk about Dungeons and Dragons, the way that you talk about World of Warcraft, it's like, yeah, of the three classes in Destiny, Joel's going to be a Titan. And I took it because it was described as like the longer lasting, more robust character. And I'm just thinking like, I'm new. I'm probably not going to be that good at it. With the Hunter and Warlock focusing more on abilities and movement, I just thought, I'm so new to this game and new to get back into console gaming after several years away from it. I thought, I'm just going to go with I'm just going to last longer. I'm not going to have to worry so much about avoiding being shot. I'm just going to hopefully not die as quickly. And so far, I quite like it. I do miss the striker ability to have 2 grenades, but now I've also got enough gear with, I think it's resilience. I can't remember the name of the statistic that you get that allows you to then throw more, like recharge your abilities faster. Grenades, I think, is one of them. Discipline,
Yeah,
maybe?
I'm not sure. Maybe, yeah.
Anyway, and that leads me into, some of the stats and stuff that I find overwhelming. I really do wish that there was a better way to compare weapons. And similar to gear, like your armor, it'll say, this has got like an armor rating of this number, discipline, this number. It adds this 6, 12, whatever it is. But on the weapons, they just give you a bar. They don't give you a number. And so you're just like, well, this bar kind of looks like it lines up with the Y in the name of the gun. But this other one that's also an assault rifle, or whatever, it looks like it might do the same amount of damage. I can't really tell because they're close, but one is obviously better than the other. Like, I really wish they would just give you a digital readout. Like, it's a sci-fi game. Like, just give me a number. Why is it a bar from left to right? Anyway, so that I found kind of hamstrung the progress, and trying to figure out what loadout I liked best. I do find now that I've got some weapons that I prefer, and because I'm not as fast on the draw, I find I like weapons that are, so that kind of makes up for that difference. I've not done any PvP yet. I'm curious about is it Gambits? The ones where it's PvPvE?
Yeah, I had recommended Gambit. It's I'm not a big PvP person, especially in a first-person shooter where there's always someone better than you on the other team. And I think that's where the claws come out in terms of the community of Destiny. Rightfully so. People are competitive. It is a competitive mode, but Gambit has a mix where you are playing PvE content with your, Fire Strike team or whatever, and then depending on how you're doing on your side, you have the ability to move a player to the enemy side and cause havoc. So that is a frustration some people have with Gambit, is that you'll be focusing on the PvE stuff and then suddenly you'll just get killed. But you are given warning when someone pops over. And usually, this is the best part about co-op, usually when they say, oh, you have an opportunity for one of your players to go over to the other side, it's usually the person who knows what they're doing that,
Right.
books it for the portal and moves over, which is nice because it removes that pressure from competitive play that I would have, sitting there like, I just want to shoot things and take down the PvE stuff and possibly defend my allies from invaders. I don't necessarily want to go over to the other side unless there's a reason for it, whether I have a specific bounty or a quest to do it. I'll put myself in those shoes, but in a normal playthrough, I'm happy to let the players who want to go over there, which is nice. Again, it removes that pressure, and I think that's my favorite mode in terms of the PvP stuff. Crucible is okay, like it's fine, but it's not really my cup of tea. But it is it's well put together. From what I've played, it can be fun if you get a good team going, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that you mentioned the bounties, because that I'm familiar with, like daily quests in World of Warcraft. And what I did like about them is that the way that not that they've spread them out physically on the map, because they've done that and they don't need to do that. I wish they didn't. But the fact that you can play the game however you want to play. So if you want to log in with some friends and run some strikes, then you can get the bounties for the strikes and get XP and get, bonuses that way. Or if you're just like, I don't have anybody to play with, I don't want to go into a strike with strangers, I just want to run around and do a bunch of these like Lost Zone content bits, or run collection missions, or try to get a couple of maybe very like low time investment heroic world events, participate in those in the bigger zones, then you can get quests for that too, which I thought was nice. And so I can also see the grind though. Like I can understand, like when I'm at the end of the Beyond Light content, when I've explored the other stuff and done some of the more world events, like I can understand where people are just like, oh gosh, like what am I going to do in Destiny now? Like if I want to continue to, I don't know whether it's because they're also participating in PvP, but like, I don't know what the drive is other than just, it's a fun game, to continue on when you're at end level for the season and all that kind of stuff. And I haven't really looked that far ahead. Like I'm sure I'll be continuing to play it. It's not going to get the same amount of attention that it has had the last week or two, because I'm just new. It's fresh. It's fun. It's a new thing. But yeah, like I'm curious to see how end game experience is for me. From what I can tell, most of my friends that play Destiny and other podcasters I've listened to, they do tend to say like, I play more when my friends are playing, but when my friends are not playing, I'm not really into it. And I think that it's just because without a decent story that's ongoing, I shouldn't say decent, it is a decent story, but without a epic story that has you gripped, and pulls you through to the next thing, you're basically just going to play it when the way that you find fun, which is more than likely going to be with your friends. Example, I had a blast with you, Monday night doing some content there and it was fun because like I had done it before, so I wasn't spoiling anything, but I was able to run around and back you up, and we get to chat and hang out and catch up a little bit and talk about the game and stuff like that. So that kind of stuff I think is fun. And I promise we'll move on. I don't want to spend the whole show talking about Destiny, but that has been what I've been playing the most. I think it's because it upscales to 4K HDR, because it shows off the Xbox Series X, capabilities pretty well. Because I don't have any like launch titles. I don't have Valhalla, and really that's a crossover title, isn't it?
Yes, that one is cross generation, so you can play it on Xbox One or Series X.
So I don't have anything yet that really, really takes advantage. I have been specifically looking for games that are optimized for Series X and S, which means that they have 4K HDR, 60 frames a second, fast to load. There's all these different things. And I have to say, to get into more of a general conversation about what, this experience has been for me the last couple of weeks. It's been a long time since I've had an Xbox. I bought a used Xbox 360 off an old coworker a number of years ago. And even then, it's been a long time since I touched that. And so to sit down, I've been able to use the HDMI connections to have my Xbox talk to the TV. So I don't even have to turn the TV on. I just have to turn the Xbox on, and it turns on the TV and it goes to the Xbox connection. So you go right to your home screen on Xbox. And if I haven't exited out of the game, the Xbox will keep it kind of not running in the background, but kind of like preloaded. And so if I've been playing Forza Horizon 4, and I want to pop in quick at lunchtime, like if I grab the controller, turn it on, and click on Forza, it's loaded into Forza, and I'm sitting behind the wheel of my car before my butt hits the couch. Like it's
That's the future.
Yeah, it's amazing, but it's a problem. Like how quickly you can get in and spend like an hour gaming when you should do other things. It's a little. It's a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong. It's very seamless, and same with switching from game to game. Like depending on how much memory the Xbox needs, I guess, to run these things or keep them loaded in the background, I could just switch. Like I remember I was playing Destiny and I wanted to switch to Forza because I just I'm done with loud explodey stuff. I'm going to wait for the next mission. I probably finished the boss fight. It's like, okay, well, I don't have time to start something right now, but I still got 20 more minutes before I got to go. So I'll switch over and I'll play some from Forza, thinking that I'd have to quit one game and then start the other and I'd have time to go grab a drink. Nope. Like I went back to home screen, switched to Forza, and it just popped straight up. I was like, okay, well, I guess it never quit. Like it's it's a little bit mind-boggling how fast that kind of stuff is. The quality of life changes, I feel, are pretty high. Um, I am experiencing some connection drops with Destiny specifically. I've not noticed it in any other game, and I've on purpose, since I mentioned it with you the other night. Well, it happened to us. I dropped out of the firefight a couple times.
Yeah, it was really odd.
Yeah, and so I've not noticed it with any other game other than Destiny. It has happened again since, but only in Destiny, and it's only after I've been playing for about an hour. And so I'm wondering if it's a bug. And I don't know for sure. I can't seem to track it down just yet, but I played Horizon the other day for 90 minutes and never lost a connection. So like there's some inconsistencies like that with some of the games, but then like that's not the Xbox's fault, I don't think. It's more that these developers and stuff have not maybe optimized or not caught something. Or I did notice a little bit strange, like when I tested my connection, it's on Wi-Fi, and I know that's not the best, but I have 100 megabits symmetrical for internet, so like really I should be fine. Downloads are 100 megabits, but uploads are 20, which is weird. And that's just the Xbox. Everything else that I've got, in the house. Now, granted, everything else that I've got is wired. That uploads at 20. I forgot to do a test because my Mac, which is plugged in, does also Wi-Fi, and I could have just switched it over and tested the upload, but I can't imagine the upload being, that much slower. But again,
I wonder.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, like, I wonder if from an upload perspective, I know with consoles, speed tests are very skewed to what the manufacturer has set up with the console. So, for example, like, download is more important with a console than upload, because upload, you're not really doing a lot of upload. You want your download to be high with the console so that you can download games and stuff. But your upload, like, you just need a certain amount of throughput to be able to keep that connection going. Now, I mean, if it's just dropping with Destiny, I would say it's a Destiny issue. You could try hardwiring it just to see if there is a change there. But my experience with sort of competitive games that have to have a constant connection, maybe that's where Destiny is like, oh, maybe there's some Wi-Fi interference. And, oh, we lost connection, we're booting you to the home screen. Because at the end of the day, with Destiny, it is an online-only game, an always online game. So if it feels it lost that connection, even for a moment, it could say like, well, you're no longer connected, so we're booting you to the home screen. And they do that for various reasons, to keep people in sync and, prevent, tampering or whatever, but at the end of the day, that could be it. And with Forza Horizon, it could just be like it's a background thing, from an online perspective.
I've not done any head-to-head stuff. Like I'm not racing against live online other players in Forza. And speaking of, now that we're talking about it, I'm enjoying Forza a lot more than I thought. Like I liked Mario Kart growing up. I'm talking about the OG Super Nintendo Mario Kart. I've not played any of the other ones except for my niece's copy on the Switch over Christmas time, which was very fun. But like, I wouldn't call myself I'm certainly not a car guy, definitely not a race game guy, as far as like my go-to. But I thought, whatever, it looks great. I'm going to try to grab a game from a bunch of different genres to kind of like, stretch my legs and see what I like on the Xbox. And I'm sure having a large TV now is part of it. Obviously Forza is optimized for Series X and looks fantastic in 4K. It is a very pretty game. And I think that's what sucked me in. And once I started to learn a little bit more and realize that, like the game does a really interactive job of bringing you around and introducing you to the different circuits and rallies and different things that you can do in the game. It did take me a minute to try to figure out whether hitting things was good or bad. I was worried that I was be damaging the car. I was like, well, what this is like, this can't be completely devoid of any kind of like penalty, but it is. Unless you're running a simulation, which I imagine most people don't do, you can run down a brick wall with your Ferrari. It does not matter. It'll look like it's banged up until the next time you load it in again. So I guess the payoff or the trade-off there is that you've got like a cracked windshield and you don't look, if you want to take a screenshot, you're going to look beat up until you like switch cars. But I've really been having a lot of fun. I don't like the off-road stuff quite as much. I tend to prefer more like the sprints, like the straightaway ones or the ones that have a little bit of a whine to them, but they high speed. I now have a lot more cars than when I started off. When I started off, I got the first three. Can't remember which ones I chose. I chose the Audi. I don't remember all the car brand names again, because I'm not a car guy. But there's a couple that I had. I think it's a Ford Focus. And then I also grabbed, or I won, I think. I can't remember how I landed it, but I ended up getting a Lamborghini. And that really then opened up the game, because you now had something that had excellent braking that matched its speed, and the turning and the handling of the car meant that you could do a lot of things at high speed without drifting into the corner, and you didn't really feel like you were all over the map. You weren't oversteering as much. The Lamborghinis are also four-wheel drive, and something that I find very impressive about Forza is you can really feel the difference between the cars. Like I got a really hot sports car from some promotional email that they sent me, and it looks cool. I don't remember what the hell it is, but it's really hard to steer on windy roads because it's front wheel drive and it's a fast car. And so you really have to know what you're doing in order to handle it on windy roads. Which I like doing because Forza is just so scenic. Like there's been days where I log in and I don't race. I just drive around for 20 minutes. Like
just going for a Sunday drive.
A lot of times behind you, as a matter of fact. So I don't know how this works, but I'm assuming that it looks at my friends list and says like, oh, a bunch of people that are on your friends list own this game, and this is the last time that they were driving around. And it kind of like throws you into my world. And you're obviously like a ghost car. I know you're not online. But it's really funny because there was one particular race where the other people in the race, one of them was you going through the sprint. And at the time, I had not unlocked the fancier cars. I was driving the Audi, which is a nice car, and I was flooring it. But you were in a McLaren. So I'm just looking at the McLaren on the straightaway getting farther and farther away. And I've got it to the floor. I was like, well, I guess I'm coming in second this time. I remember sending you the screenshot. And it's one of those things where that combination of like having some friends buzz around, even though it's not live, you kind of want to beat them. The fact that I can take a screenshot so easily with the Series X, with the controller button, and send it to you, and that I didn't need a massive tutorial how to do that. Like, there's a lot to be said about how sleek the setup is for Series X and the new operating system and like all that kind of stuff. It's been really fun for me to be able to interact in that way. When's the last time you played Forza?
It's been a while. I played at launch, so a couple years ago, and
Wow.
The Forza franchises always had this thing they called like a drivatar, and they just kept saying it until it's kind of become a normal term. It was weird, but now it's totally baked into the experience. And what it is, like everything you do in your racing is building this drivatar that is then sent out to your friends lists who are playing the game. So when I was playing it, I remember seeing friends who may not be actively playing it, but there was enough data from when they did to build this thing that was then uploaded to the cloud. So what you're playing is sort of a amalgamation of all my driving kind of put into one sort of avatar.
Nice.
And it usually makes them more aggressive, I find, when you're racing. Like all the drivatars are kind of, trying to take out your back bumper, which is always fun. But no, it's been a while, but I remember that game being gorgeous at launch on the Xbox One, and I can only imagine. Well, I can only imagine what a lot of these games look like, and I think that, I'm still in the previous generation. I've always been a console person. I enjoy the simplicity of downloading a game or putting the disc in, it installing, you run it, you're good to go. And all the quality of life stuff coming with the Series X and the PlayStation 5 of, smart delivery where you're always getting the content that is made for your system, and the ability to sort of have multiple games running in sort of a background state, so you can switch on the fly, which to me is really great because usually, especially with Game Pass, like I've got my big AAA game on the run, and then I've also got like a couple indies that I'm bouncing between. So to have all of those sort of running in like a cold state that I can bring them up at any time, that sounds fantastic. And the screenshot sharing, I know like to a PC player, like there are ways for you to do that with different systems, but I've always appreciated the simplicity of just being able to sit with a controller on a big screen and just have it all at my fingertips. And yeah, you don't have the control that you have with a PC experience. That's kind of why I like the Mac as well, because there's a little more customization there, but with the Mac, like it's all built in, it all works, and it's very easy. It's all at your fingertips. And I've always enjoyed that sort of catered experience. And I've kind of been bouncing more between the PC and the consoles lately because, again, more of those experiences are targeting the next generation, which I don't have. So I've kind of been bouncing back to the PC a little bit more, but I do miss that console experience. And I'm probably looking at the PS5 being the first one I pick up just due to the exclusive content. But we talked about it when we were playing Destiny. I'm also sitting here and like, yeah, but I've got big Game Pass like prepaid for like 2 years. Mm-hmm. It really would be nice to play it on something that can really make it go.
And there are some titles on Game Pass. Like I'm currently playing Titanfall 2, mm-hmm. Ori and the Blind Forest, Elder Scrolls Skyrim, Unruly Heroes. Obviously, I mentioned Destiny 2, Batman Arkham Knight, which I've fallen off a little bit, but that was the main game I was plugging time into until I tried Destiny 2. I think I've also got Battlefield 5 installed. I'm just going through the story missions. I was just in the mood for a World War II, shooter, and I feel like these are not all just like half-ass games. Like there's a number of these are very solid games. You've got things like the Dragon Age series is on there. What I would love to have, and I haven't found anything similar yet, is I like Assassin's Creed. I really like Black Flag, and so I'm waiting, and I'll play Valhalla, but it's one of those things where like I wish there was some Assassin's Creed content in Game Pass. Not that I can't take an old Xbox game and upscale it, but I don't know how good that would look. Yeah, like it's one of those things where there's just for me the Xbox is just the value add. It's especially because it's Game Pass Ultimate, which means that when some of these games, if they don't already have cross save, then I could easily pick it up on the PC and continue where I left off, or have access to a bunch of different games on PC rather than waiting for Steam sales or what have you. Like, for example, if I wanted to play Battlefront 2, the Celebration Edition is on Game Pass. I could sit and play that on Xbox, or I could play it on the computer, and stream it and have some fun with the community. So, like, I love that flexibility, and it's perfect for me because I've been out of the gaming loop for that last generation. Like Xbox One, One X never even looked at one, let alone owned one. So there's a lot of stuff that I just missed that I get to catch up on. Specifically things like Ori. I haven't played a lot of Ori, but it's beautiful as an animator and an artist and someone that appreciates that kind of work. Not that I don't appreciate that work in all games, but like for whatever reason, because Ori is hand drawn and 2D, it's really, really pretty. Excellent game mechanics, like really fun adventure, whimsical world, like a high contrast of like the dark backgrounds and the very glowy, main character of Ori that you control. Like it's just very satisfying, more satisfying than I thought a platformer was going to be, Because one of the things that I thought when I was downloading and choosing games on Game Pass for the Xbox was like I wanted to go through and I wanted to get like a couple of first-person shooters. I wanted to get like an adventure game. That's the Batman one. Like I wanted to get a platformer, racing game, etc. And looking at Ori, I was like, well, I'll grab one. It looks really pretty. The artwork sold me. But I was like, I don't know if I'm going to want to play a platformer on an Xbox Series X. Like it just felt like kind of like a waste of the hardware. And boy, was I wrong. Like it's, you need that variety, and it's nice to have that break of just like, I don't really want to necessarily have an intense experience like Destiny where I have to blow stuff up before it kills me. Whereas with Ori, there just has that calm exploration, kind of whimsical feel to it. And there's enough going on that you don't feel like you're just playing some old game, on a Series X. It still feels current. Like it feels like if a platformer was going to come out for Xbox Series X, like they would probably not change a heck of a lot, because why fix it if it's not broken?
Yeah, no, the Ori games are really, really good. And I think the sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, got a very substantial Series X upgrade where you can play, I think, in 6K. So
Really?
so you could play like an up-resed version in 6K, 100, and then there's 120 frames per second mode as well. So that game got a huge bump, and I still think it's important to play Blind Forest first because it kind of introduces you to the characters and the concept. But the sequel to that game takes a lot of the issues I had with it and completely addresses them. Makes the combat more interesting, the navigation more interesting, and it is a complete upgrade to that first one. So it essentially saying like it'd be very tough to go back to the first one after even dipping your toe into the second one. So you're doing it right there, because both games are great, but again, the improvements they've put upon. I mean, you mentioned you're playing Titanfall 2, a game that probably hasn't even seen a Series X upgrade, but I'm sure runs phenomenally on the Series X. But if you are enjoying Respawn's work, I would say look at the Star. I know we talked about it. Not that you need another game, but we've talked about this. Like Star Wars Fallen Order. There's a Jedi Fallen Order. It's Respawn's Star Wars game. Amazing, and just saw a Series X upgrade. Actually, I think last week they got a
really?
patch.
Cool.
Yeah, that game. I know you're a Star Wars fan. It's like really good Star Wars set between episodes 3 and 4. And it's a very good Star Wars story that leans more towards the original trilogy type of content, even though it is closer to episode 3, but they really lean into that original trilogy stuff. And it's really good. I loved that game when it came out, and I played it on Xbox One X, which had a performance mode. So I can only imagine what it looks like 4K 60 frames per second. So that's going to give you a really good experience, and it's a great Star Wars game. And I think if you're looking at Assassin's Creed, you got to be careful there, because since you played Assassin's Creed, they've really changed the gameplay. Not necessarily the gameplay, but the structure of the game. So after Black Flag, moving into Origins, or whatever game came before Origins, they kind of changed the combat system, and it's not quite the same, but I found that, Jedi Fallen Order had a little bit of that old Assassin's Creed.
Okay.
In terms of, there was a lot of parrying and dodging. Your movements sort of meant more, as opposed to the newer Assassin's Creed, where it's kind of like get your licks in when you can and then dodge out of the way, but you can also parry as well. And it's more of an active combat, as opposed to a sort of an engaged combat where you're trying to parry and dodge and stuff. So I think you'd really dig Fallen Order, and probably would put a lot of these on the back burner, because it is a really good game, has a really great story, looks great, and it is Star Wars to all up and down. It's great stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I've heard mixed things. I've heard maybe the maps and some of the levels are a little bit long and confusing in Jedi Fallen Order, but I've also heard
it's a linear experience.
Like I've heard like positive mostly positive. Frustrating parts here and there, but mostly positive. I should also add that I do plan to play Origins because I think I own both, but Origins and Odyssey either came to me free or really cheap on Steam and or Epic over the last year. I don't remember when. I just kind of grabbed them when I saw them. I just didn't up until this last couple of weeks have a controller to play them with on the PC. And again, like now, it's like, well, am I going to sit at my PC with my 27-inch monitor and play those, or am I going to sit in the front of the television, right? The difference there is that, like, if I wanted to stream them for something different, then I could try to do that for a break. That could be kind of fun. But it's vice versa. Like, I could also download Minecraft on the Xbox, which is the Bedrock version, console edition, but same difference. For the sake of a simple argument. But I play Java on the computer, and that's streaming. That's part of my kind of income, really. Call it a side hustle, whatever you want to call it. And for me, it's I don't want to play Minecraft on the console. Like, I can't imagine with the number of hours that I've spent keyboard, mouse, playing Minecraft. I don't think that I would want to be, I would feel so slow, I think, walking around with a controller. I don't think I would be happy with it at all. I will check it out more if RTX ever comes to the Xbox. Right now it's just on Windows 10. But if Minecraft RTX comes to the Xbox, then I would definitely have to check it out. I am, however, playing Minecraft Dungeons a little bit just to kind of like test it out to see what it was like to play on the console. And I've played quite a bit of that on the PC when it first came out, and still haven't gotten up to the Apocalypse difficulty level, but like I've really enjoyed the time in it. And that is going to eventually this year get cross saves. So then I could stream it, enjoy it, play it, share it with the viewers. And if I wanted to keep going on the couch, I could. And then just pick up again the next time I wanted to stream, it would just be a little bit higher level. And so that is the only reason that I've not poured a lot of time into Dungeons on the Xbox Series X, because I would, but I don't want to just I don't want to replay it. I don't want to do it over again. I kind of want to pick up where I left off. The one exception being that I would love to take friends through it because it's such a fun game. And anybody that hasn't played it before, like if you've played Diablo and you've played any of the Lego games, like smash those together. And that's essentially what you get with Minecraft Dungeons. And it would be, that would be the only reason that I would start over with a fresh character, would be to like bring someone else into the game. But I also like, because I know cross saves are coming, I don't know when, but they've said that they're coming. It's on their development list. So I'm just not putting any time in, because eventually I will be able to bring over my two characters from the PC over to the Xbox.
I would have assumed it was cross save just because of it's a Microsoft game, but that's interesting that they don't have that implemented yet.
It's on their list. They're cranking out so much content with Dungeons. Like Flames of the Nether was just announced. That comes out at the end of the month, I think. And they're adding 6 new levels and a whole new dimension to the game. Every expansion that they've come out with so far has had like 3 new levels that's been DLC. Plus, every time they do that, they also upgrade part of the base game for free for everybody. And they've got a Halloween event, and they had a Christmas event, and I don't know when the next one is going to be, but it like probably coinciding with the launch of actually the Flames of the Nether, maybe. But like, it just, there's a lot to do in the game, and I'm with you. I'm surprised that the cross saves haven't happened, but cross play happened first. So you can play with friends now, no matter whether you're on a PC, Switch, Xbox, doesn't matter. If the game is available, then you can play with other people no matter what platform that they're on, which I thought was pretty cool.
You're kind of swimming in content when it comes to this new console, and I can completely understand.
It's a little overwhelming.
Yeah. Especially not missing a generation, but having a good chunk of content that you haven't played from the last 7 years. And I mean, even looking at Assassin's Creed, having the option between Origins and Odyssey, I would suggest if you have an itch to play one of them and not ready to buy Valhalla is still your best option because it is the most refined of those games. I mean, you remember playing Assassin's Creed back in the day, the way they would iterate on them. You would always want to play the newest one because that would have the most, polish. But I would say Odyssey is probably your best bet, especially from a character standpoint. I just found the characters more interesting in Odyssey, and obviously you're going to want to choose Cassandra because Alexios is not very interesting. But Cassandra's great, and I know everyone will back me up on this. And it's ancient Greece, and all the characters are really great. It's varied environments. You bring the boat back, so there's more of an open world feel as opposed to Origins. Just sort of had like smaller boats that you could just use to putter around. But the ship combat's back in Odyssey. So if you're looking for a good balance, I would suggest Odyssey. But if you can wait for Valhalla, that's probably your best bet to jump in, because I've kind of dabbled with all three. I'm currently experiencing Valhalla through the Ubisoft Plus, subscription, just to kind of check it out on PC. And it's definitely the most refined of all of them, and feels the most Assassin's Creed after they had sort of the diversion from the original game. I mean, the Hidden Blade isn't even in Origins or Assassin's Creed, and to me, that is Assassin's Creed.
Right? Yeah.
When you remove the weapon, it's like, it's still Assassin's Creed, but it's not. And then Valhalla brings it back. It's like, oh right, I miss this so much. So
Nice.
Yeah. Definitely check it out when you can, for sure. But it sounds like you've got a lot that you can keep yourself distracted with, so you're not like, oh yeah, Valhalla, I should really play that.
Yeah,
but it would be a full price.
I think, and that's one of the reasons why I think I haven't downloaded that Star Wars games, because I am enjoying Batman Arkham Knight, and I will eventually finish it when the hot shiny of Destiny and Forza sometimes will wear off. I think the thing with Forza, it's just an easy pick up, put down game. Like, I can play it for 10 minutes, I can play it for an hour. It doesn't matter. And that's not to say that you can't do good content. Like, you can still do a race in less than 10 minutes. Like, if that's all you wanted to do, then you can totally actually do like a qualified race in that time, which is cool. The only thing, and I won't get into this because we're running out of time, but I'm really enjoying Unruly Heroes. I only just started it, and so I'm just going to leave a note here to recommend it on like first impressions. And I'll come back to it in more detail, because like I don't really remember the name of the characters, and so, but it's just a unique fighting platformer where you switch between 4 different characters, and they each have different abilities and different uses. And so you're constantly switching based on what the platform level and the enemies have you doing. And there's deep mechanics. It's fast paced. You can still have a breath whenever you need to, or not whenever you need to, but like there are moments to kind of like, okay, I got through that. You can have a moment with nothing's trying to kill you. But it's beautiful from an art and animation perspective. Everything is just fluid and fun. And then it also has a really lovely sense of humor. Specifically the goddess guide that's kind of like guiding me through the first, few levels. Very, very fun. And I will return to it more on the show when I have more time, just because of how deep it does appear to be. But yeah, I would really recommend people, if you have Xbox Game Pass, check out Unruly Heroes. I don't think you'd be disappointed, at least not with your first few levels, because I certainly wasn't.
Yeah, I got to check that one out. It's one that I knew of, but didn't stay on my radar long enough to get the install. But the fact that it's on Game Pass, and I enjoyed Ori, I probably need to check this one out as well.
Well, that brings us into the Internet Minute, which is brought to you by you. The Citadel Cafe is 100% listener supported. If you're getting value out of the show, please consider putting a little bit of value back in. You can become a member at patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. Joining at any level will get you an invite to the member-only Discord server. There are multiple levels with different rewards like Discord roles, even access to bonus audio content on the Patreon page. We've got 21 patrons right now. We're always looking to add one more each month. If you'd like that to be you, then check out patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. The pick this week is from me via Ryan, actually. You sent me this link, today, earlier yesterday? I can't remember when. This is the new Xbox Series X headset from Microsoft. As I think some of you know on the show, I have been struggling with finding a good over-the-ear headset for multiple use around the apartment and studio. I want to be able to play on the Xbox like I did with Ryan on Monday night. I'd like to be able to use it for headphones on the PC. I don't need a mic on the PC. I've got my podcasting mics. But I also wouldn't mind having something that I could maybe listen to music to or watch movies with, that sort of thing. And this new headset from Microsoft might be it. We don't know yet because it's only been announced. You can't actually get it yet. It's available March 16th. Pre-order started the other day on February 16th. It's wireless, has Dolby Atmos / DTS Headphone X, up to 15 hours of battery, large over-ear ear cups with Xbox wireless and Bluetooth, equalizer adjustments, and presets, as well as a retractable mic. It's not retractable in that it doesn't go inside the headset, but it does fold up out of the way rather than just like up over the ear pieces. It actually folds into one of the cups. It's a little bit heavier than the current headset I'm using. I'm using a Cloud X from HyperX, which is around 212 grams, and these are 312. Hopefully, there's not as much pinch pressure or clamping force from the Xbox Series X headset. I find that's been my problem with the last couple of headsets I've been trying. They don't fit very well. The battery boasts 30 minutes of charge to get 4 hours of battery and 3 hours of charge to get to the top estimated 15 hours of battery life. Obviously, it depends on what you're doing, how often you're listening to things. I would imagine if you're connecting Bluetooth to your phone and Xbox wireless, you're probably not going to get the 15 hours. But still, I'd imagine like it's enough that I think that you're not going to like have it go dead on you all the time. And it retails for $99 US or $129 Canadian, which is pretty good for a wireless headset that boasts Dolby Atmos. Have you looked at this closely, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm not super closely. I think when you look at these wireless headsets, I'm definitely in the market for a wireless headset after using my new wired headset that I got for Black Friday, which is I think it's a SteelSeries or Elite USB. You'd think I'd know what it was since I fretted over so much when I was trying to buy it. But this headset here, like Sony has a similar sort of offering. I don't think it has Dolby Atmos. They have their own technology in their wireless headset. But I think this new Microsoft one is really interesting in the sense that it is being advertised as a headset that will work for your Xbox, your PC, your mobile phone. And it actually, another cool feature is that it supports dual connections. So you can have it connected to your phone and your Xbox, and you can be receiving audio from both of those. So and the mic as well. So you might be asking, well, what use case do you have there? It's like, well, if we wanted to use Discord for our voice chat, you could have Discord running on your phone, and then the headset is connected to your phone for Discord, and then your headset is also connected to the Xbox for the audio from the game. And I think that is such a cool feature because sometimes it's just easier to use Discord, although we managed with the Xbox party system. It's just, I'd like to see all these features that they've added. And I mean, Dolby Atmos, that's crazy in a headset. Like I honestly usually have to pay a premium for that. Although, mind you, I think you have to pay for the to access the Dolby Atmos on your Xbox. There's like a monthly subscription or something, because I have a soundbar that has Dolby Atmos, and you get that for free, but they have some sort of like paid thing for your headphones. It might be a one-time unlock. I could be wrong.
That's a weird thing. I've never heard of that. The way that, I mean, when I set up the TV, the TV does not have fantastic speakers, but it will absolutely do Dolby Atmos if that's what's coming to it. There's not enough hardware to take advantage of it to its full potential, but with Dolby, Dolby Vision and HDR content, like the television just switches based on what's coming in. I know Atmos is audio, but I feel like, I don't know if I've ever heard, people can correct me if I'm wrong, so feel free to write in at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com, but I don't think you'd have to pay for unlocking Dolby Atmos, especially not in the Xbox wireless headset. Really?
Yeah, so it's $20 Canadian, it's an add-on for the Dolby Access app, and it's Dolby Atmos for headphones.
Really?
So you do have to purchase the sort of the app. The app is free,
That
and
is shady.
it's I you know what it comes down to? It comes down to licensing, and they must throw in just the TV sound system for free because that is going to be a majority of your users. But yeah, it is there's a free trial for your Dolby Atmos uh, connection over headphones. And yeah, this is the new world. All these technologies all working together, and I mean, it is a one-time purchase, but there are a lot of games specifically on the previous generation. It was kind of a premium feature. I know Cyberpunk supported it, but I think going forward with this new generation, it's going to be more supported by content. But yeah, it is a one-time purchase. It's $20. It's a little weird, but I bet you any money has to do from a licensing thing, and for some reason they throw you a bone.
Well, it's better. I can see it from a business perspective. It's better to get these out under the $100 price tag, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you had to include it, then they're going to start at 139, 120. Like they'd be up into the 160, 170 Canadian if that was the case. If that was with most people either not wanting to or not going to be taking advantage of it. Like if most of your gamers are using it to play Minecraft on their Xbox, they don't really care about Dolby Atmos,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because one of the appealing features for these would be to listen to movies, to watch movies with them on, at which point I would be wanting to spend the extra money on the Dolby Atmos. But yeah, well, I mean, I guess if this is the world we live in, it's better than a monthly subscription as opposed to just a one-time unlock.
I'm glad I looked it up.
Yeah, that is bizarre because that does add a price tag to the headphones because anybody in our shoes is going to want to unlock the Dolby Atmos, right? You're going to want that experience, and that changes the price tag attached to them. But none of it matters if they don't fit. So there's that. Having a real hard time with I don't have a large head. I think it's just that a lot of headphones are just clamping harder in the most recent years. I think because it adds to the passive noise cancellation, but it is uncomfortable. I'm not a fan. But that's my pick this week. What do you have?
I just threw this in here. Earlier today, Nintendo had their first Direct, the Nintendo Direct, which is their sort of presentation mode, kind of, brought video game companies into this idea of doing, just live stream events. Like Nintendo kind of did it first. Everyone was like, oh, this is really weird. But then Sony and Microsoft have quickly followed suit. And the significance of this Nintendo Direct is that this is the first one we've had in over a year. So throughout 2020 during the pandemic, and we're still going on with this pandemic, but they didn't have any of these big events, and usually they're nearly an hour long. It's a bunch of announcements, games we haven't heard of in development being confirmed, and this was the first one of those. Usually, early on in the year when they do one, their first one off the hop is kind of focusing on, the next 6 months, and those games, games that release from January through the summer are usually not the big bombastic titles that people look forward to. It's usually the fall and winter months where those come out. So we'll probably get those announcements down the road, but this is pretty significant that we haven't had one of these in over a year. And, some highlights, they kind of showcased a little bit of everything. They did, kick the can down the road when it came to Breath of the Wild 2, saying, yeah, we'll have news later, but they did announce a Skyward Sword HD on the Switch, which looks really good. New Smash character. Animal Crossing is going to be getting a Mario update to help celebrate the 35th anniversary of Mario. So there's a bunch of new items being added to Animal Crossing. They've done a great job at supporting that game. So it's 50 minutes of content. So there's something in there for everyone who's a fan of Nintendo related content. So it's you can go in and you can go to the YouTube channel for Nintendo and kind of find the whole Direct, but you can also find all the trailers sort of split out, all the big ones. So you can kind of pick and choose what you want sort of view. So yeah, it was really exciting. We watched it. I watched it with the kids because it was airing during dinner time, so we made a little event of it.
That's
And
fun.
yeah, being Nintendo, it was pretty easy to say like this is probably going to be fine for kids. There were a couple moments where there was like monsters on screen and stuff where I said to them ahead of time, I explained to the kids like, look, like this is a Nintendo thing. It's probably mostly good, but if we want to do this again, I might have to take the tablet away if there's like, an adult thing that comes on the screen. And that's how we explained it to the kids. I know adult thing to other adults sounds much worse than it is, but
Yeah.
if there's mature content on screen, I'm going to take the tablet away and then I'm going to bring it back. Just know that you're not missing anything. It's just not for kids, but it was good.
Because doesn't Left 4 Dead comes out on Switch, right? Like that's one of the titles that they have on that, right?
No, I don't think they have Left 4 Dead. I think the closest thing that was like,
There's a zombie game though.
oh yes, yeah, there was a zombie game shown. I mean, Resident Evil stuff usually comes out on the Switch.
That's what it is. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think there was a couple announcements that were like I was getting ready to take the tablet away, but again, Nintendo caters to an all ages. So even if a game like I think they announced a Ninja Gaiden trilogy, and that's a pretty bloody, mature title, but again, because it's Nintendo, they make it known that this is a mature title, but they don't show you all the mature bits. They kind of give you the spliced action so that it is still suitable for all ages to a certain extent. But they really dug it. They got bored near the end after dinner was done, and that's when all the big announcements, all the Zelda stuff was happening. And I'm like, okay, let's just calm down. We're almost there. Daddy wants to know what they're doing to Skyward Sword because he kind of wants to play it again because I know it wasn't that great on Wii, but hey, maybe it'll look better. And they're like, they were constantly screaming like, Mommy, do you want to buy this game? And I'm like, no, I don't think, Mommy wants to buy the Ninja trilogy that Daddy did not like because he's terrible at those games. But let's keep asking and from across the room.
Maybe you'll hit a home run. Yeah, that's hilarious.
So we had some fun with it.
Well, that wraps up this episode of the Citadel Cafe. You can get information about the things that Ryan and I talked about at thecitadelcafe.com. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can email the show at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com or find us by name on Twitter. Subscribe for free on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. Word of mouth is the easiest way to support the show. Just tell a friend about the Citadel Cafe and where they can go to listen to it. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am doing online, including my illustration and design portfolio at joelduggan.com. You can also listen to my other podcast all about Minecraft at thespawnchunks.com. Huge snapshot this week. We talked about the introduction of caves in the Caves and Cliffs update, as well as the world height increasing to a total of 384 blocks, up from 256. So that is available right now at thespawnchunks.com. You can also check out twitch.tv/Joel Duggan, where I do streams every weekend, currently spending a lot of time in Minecraft building a medieval city and having a blast doing it. Ryan, where can people find you online?
Well, the best place to follow me is on Twitter. I'm at rmurphy. And if you're looking for my podcast, whether you're into gaming, zombies, or you are a parent, you can go to tgistudios.com and find all those links. And that is the best place to find me online.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.